Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We are getting the rain that we've prayed for this week. Our lawns are going to look better here in a couple of days. We're going to kick this off with the pledge and the invocation. Invocation is going to be performed by Pastor Dirk Rogers. We're right there. Thanks, sir.
Shall we pray? Father God, your scripture paints a picture of shalom, of peace, a place where there's enough justice, protection, provision for all involved. And Father, here in our little corner of the world, we try to build our little slice of heaven here of peace. And my prayer is, through our conversations today, we may come to one mind about how to move forward to create an environment that is rewarding and encouraging and safe and provides what we all want for our families. And so, Father, we trust the sovereignty of your Spirit, and we thank you for everyone involved, especially those sacrificing time to serve generously their community. And so, Father, we ask your blessing upon all this. In the name of Christ Jesus, our Lord, we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
it may be an aerobics room.
I think it might be.
Should we do the intros?
Yeah.
All right. Now, we might have the parking sorted out. Let's start to my far left. Let's do introductions this morning.
Ed Childs, Sandbar Beach House, Mar Vista, Gamble Creek Farm.
Eric Karen, Cedar Cove Resort, Anna Maria Island. Sorry.
You have to get to your seat before it gets to you.
Jiten Patel, Doubletree, Saraswat Bradenton Airport.
Shirley Griever Bryant, Mayor of the City of Palmetto.
Gene Brown, Mayor, City of Bradenton.
Ray Turner, Commissioner for District 5.
Norma Kennedy, interested citizen.
David Wick, interested citizen.
Elliot Felchoni, Tourism Director for Manatee County. Mr. Chair, I'd like to acknowledge we've got a couple mayors in the audience. Mayor Chappie, City of Bradenton Beach. Mayor Murphy, City of Anna Maria. Commissioner George Cruz in the back of the room. Are there any elected officials here? Good. Thank you for being here, Deborah. Thank you for being here, sir. Back to you, sir. Thank you.
So we have a star-studded crowd then.
We do.
All right. We need meeting minutes approval for the April 15th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
It's a 10-0. Thank you. As always, we'd like to get feedback from the public. So I'd like to, it's not on the agenda this way, but public comment, I'd like to move up the agenda, take chair privilege. Is there anybody that has anything to say about what's on the agenda today? Any feedback? I see no one. Okay, so we'll move on. Water ferry marketing.
Yes, sir.
Elliot.
As you can see, the agenda is kind of all about me this morning, so I apologize for that on a Monday morning.
We are used to it, Elliot.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Now, it's been exciting. I heard, I think Keenan, our communications manager, rode out to the island yesterday, and the ferry was full. So we're doing really well with the water ferry running Wednesday through Sunday. We'll continue that through the month of June. And, the goal is to run it 12 months a year. We'll see how that goes. Ann Wittine with research data, she'll give you a report towards the tail end of the agenda. But just she surveyed a lot of the beachgoers over Memorial Day holiday, and 60% of them were aware of the water ferry. So that's a really good percentage. Colby Gason and her partner in crime, Day, have done a great job marketing the water ferry. We're still learning month by month through surveys, and it's the one initiative where I've told staff, let's be in the face of our region and our tourists, and so far so good. With that, we're respectfully asking for an additional $75 in marketing specifically for the water ferry. We want to do a local survey through a publication that covers all of East County and Longboat Key, as well as give us that brand awareness push through the summer and into early fall. Once we get to October 1, then she'll have a fresh pot of marketing dollars. And then, Mr. Chair and TDC, y'all recommended to the Board of County Commissioners a third enclosed water ferry. The board will consider that tomorrow at their commission meeting. With that, I'm asking for a recommendation for some additional marketing dollars for the water ferry.
Mr. Chair, what was that amount?
$75,000.
Okay,
$75 is right.
yeah, that's, yeah, so I'd like to make.
Did I say $75?
Yes.
Well, I can cover that myself.
I was thinking that's not going to
Yeah.
do much.
I know.
Buy somebody lunch.
So I'd like to make that motion and then have some discussion before we go to the vote.
You have
Okay.
a second down here.
Yeah, and there was a
So
second.
we have a second.
Yeah, you have a second, yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Go ahead.
and some discussion. As we know, and I think Elliot knows, that my wife and I live right at the end of the dock in Bradenton, and we routinely sit and look out the window and to wait for the water ferry to come back and go, and it is unbelievable, the success, because it's a 49-seat boat, and there's 49 people getting off and 49 people waiting to get on. And one of the things that we were worried about, to a point of parking, well, when you're in a downtown, people find the parking. And I know we actually even have a freebie through our CRA now. So people are parking in the parking garage, and if they can't walk the short distance, they're using the freebie to get there. So we're actually promoting that as well, to use our freebie that, in the CRA. And, I just think that it's something that had been on the books trying to do for 30 years that I've heard about this. And so this county commission and obviously the TDC board and others in the cities has really worked. And as MPO chairman at this time, we also have talked about it at our MPO meeting, and Sarasota is interested in getting on our route as we go further, especially when we get this new boat where it can run every day and not have delays because of the weather. So can you imagine going from downtown Bradenton, having several stops in between, and ending up in downtown Sarasota or St. Armand Circle? What a darn great thing that would be for our cities and our counties to be together in the collaboration. So I just want to say thank you to this board, thank you to our county commissioners for really making this happen the last couple of years. And when, for my whole life living here, we've heard about it, but nobody was willing to take that shot, and now it's working. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? All right, there's a motion on the table. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 10-0. All right, we move on. Your convention center construction update. Elliot's going to be making an ask here as well. So this time, Elliot, with the dollars.
Yeah, yes, my credit card won't hold
make
this
it
one.
like don't lowball us, and then all of a sudden it's Okay,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bradenton Area Convention Center. If you've driven by that complex in the past 6 months, they are full-blown construction. We are thrilled at the pace that the general contractor is making. Part of it, we haven't had rain in 2.5 months, so they're really close to closing in the expansion, the connector. As many of you have gone to the ribbon cutting at the Marriott Resort and Spa, that'll be opening later this month. And the Marriott in itself is going to generate in the $5 to $7 million in tourism tax generation itself. Just a reminder, the convention center, when finished March, April next year, is going to generate in that $30 to $40 million annually to the local economy as the city of Palmetto and the city of Bradenton continue to work hard to redevelop that urban core. And an asset like the convention center will continue to feed that urban core year in and year out. With that, the Board of County Commissioners did approve initially a $48 million construction budget. And not that we accept it, but as many of you know, construction costs have been all over the place for the past few years. There were some unforeseen circumstances that came up when the contractor got in the ground, when they removed the parking lot. A lot of the storm drains were so deteriorated, they needed to be replaced. That was not accounted for in the original scope. Material costs were about 8% higher than originally projected. And then part of that $48 million did not include construction design initially. So Tom Yarger is in the back of the room. I told him just to hide out, but I want to bring him up, not sit there. I want to bring his name up because Tom and I have worked together for 30 years. He is the construction manager. I have the utmost respect and confidence in Tom and his team. And when Tom tells me we need a little bit more to get this done right the first time, I trust him wholeheartedly, and I believe in what he does. So with that, I'm going to ask for a $3.6 million to get us to the finish line, to keep this project moving in a very high gear. And then I would bring this to the Board of County Commissioners for consideration after they get back from recess as well. We do have the wherewithal in the coffers to cover this expense. With that, I'm asking for a recommendation.
Chair. I would like to make that recommendation, that motion, and I would also like to make some comments. Is there a second?
Second.
For discussion. I just wanted to bring up something that maybe a lot of people don't know. I've lived in Palmetto my whole life, and as my recollection, when in 1984 and 85, when our state representative was Ralph Haben, who still lives in Tallahassee. When he brought the money home, he was so excited. The community was so pleased to finally have a convention center in that location. When he brought it home, they kept wanting to name it after him. And he was very humble, and he said no, he did not want that. He did not want it named after him. He brought it to Manatee County. And so with that being said, the powers that be at that time, they wanted to honor him for bringing those funds back to Manatee County because it has been a game changer since that point in time. So basically, they named Haben Boulevard after him. So I mentioned that to somebody the other day, and they said, I never knew that. So I just wanted to share that with everybody here. And we're hopeful when we have the ribbon cutting that Ralph Haben will be able to be with us. We're not sure yet, but he has already been invited. So looking forward to that. And since that time, just to follow up on it, we've been trying to get a hotel at that location. So the ribbon cutting on that was really noteworthy, and I'm sorry if you missed it because it was awesome. So anyway, with that, I'll pass.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chair?
Oh, what a surprise.
No, well, positive. So collaboration, I think that's something, and I just want to celebrate Mayor Bryant and what she's done for all these years to try to get that hotel and go through things and really get the convention center, to where it needs to be. And that's one of the things that from a community standpoint and from a lifelong resident, and obviously now the mayor of the city of Bradenton, because this is not in silos when these things are done. And when you can say, hey, I've already heard of a convention talking that wants to come here that can fit in the convention center but there's not enough hotel rooms right next door. So with our transportation, with our water taxi, to have the hotel rooms in the city of Bradenton, as well as city of Palmetto full, and our convention center thriving, is something that, again, without your leadership over the years, that wouldn't even have been possible at all, and also your wherewithal, because we know how it takes sometimes when you got a 5-board council or committee that needs to do it, challenging. But I just wanted to say congratulations on that ribbon cutting and that truly is something that Mayor Bryant has done to get done over all the years. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the comments. And if you don't mind, I would like to just throw a little tidbit out there. Mayor Brown and I are working on another idea to collaborate with Bradenton and Palmetto. So we'll be bringing that forward, hopefully in the next few weeks. So thank you.
Great to hear that. I'd like to make a few comments for public consumption too. It's not unusual that we have cost overruns because of the cost of materials. On road projects, we used to build in 15%. It is starting to settle down right now. Elliot did mention that, the material costs were 8% higher, along with construction issues, design stuff that wasn't built in the original budget. This is a 7.5% ask of the total, which is actually quite conservative. We're quite lucky it's been managed well. Your construction guys did a good job. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 10-0. All right, next up is the 6 penny.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. Several months ago, this council recommended an ordinance to add an additional 1% bed tax to all short-term rentals. We did meet the criteria that the state required, north of $30 million in tax collection and 600 million in direct revenues. We were headed to the Board of County Commissioners for supermajority approval after being certified by the Department of Revenue that we did meet the criteria. And the brakes went on the Friday before the Tuesday meeting, being alerted that the state changed the law in 2023 that required any additional bed tax to be a referendum, no longer in the control of the Board of County Commissioners for supermajority approval. Don't know why the law changed, but we control the controllables. Since then, our county attorney's office revised the ordinance to apply the new state law that is in front of you. And that penny conservatively will generate $7 to $8 million a year for the community. It's important that me as your director continues to educate the residents the value of, one, tourists, number two, the value of the tax. I've always said to the media, there's no better partnership than building, renovating an asset that serves the residents at no cost to the residents. And I can sit here today and say, number one, we have our sugar white sand beaches because of the visitation. We have piers, we have groins, we have grant dollars going to the Bishop Museum, the new art center, the Manatee Performing Arts Center, the Convention Center, the Florida Railroad Museum, Premier Sports Campus. Sarasota Bradenton International Airport's been the fastest growing airport in the United States the past 3 years. A big part of that is we're using tourism tax proceeds to help incentivize airlines to add nonstop flights. How nice is it to be able to go to that airport to travel and not drive up to Tampa International Airport? And we can go on and on. The water ferry, a service that is enhancing multimodal transportation at no cost to the residents. Doesn't get any better than that. So I need a recommendation today so we can present this to the Board of County Commissioners. I'm hoping late July for their consideration to see if the board wants to put this on the general election ballot in November. We would have to register with the supervisor of elections by August the 19th to be on that ballot. I'll play devil's advocate. If the board does not choose to put it on the ballot, it would have to wait 2 years because it's required to be on a general election ballot. If for some reason it failed and it was on the ballot, we'd have to wait another 2 years to register to put it back on the ballot. Finally, Mr. Chair, I've been known to say when a community sees a lot of success, opportunities will come at you faster. We need to discern quickly, not be afraid to say no from time to time. And as many of you know, and I've been blessed to be empowered to be working on a lot of public-private partnerships that not only enhance our tourism base on the mainland, but also create assets for our residents that live here at no cost to the residents. They are non-disclosure agreements. So from time to time, we need a resource of funds to be able to get deals done for the greater good of our community. So with that, that is my long presentation. I'm here to answer any questions, and I'm asking for a recommendation.
So moved on recommendation.
We've got to move. Got a second?
Second.
Second.
I got a comment on that. It's main concern that I have is how to educate citizens on the ballot. Like, can we educate them on the ballot and making them understand what is the tourist tax? Because when they see as a tax word, they don't want to have it increased or any kind of changes. But when we educate them on the ballot, that could make an impact on their decision.
That's a valid concern, and Elliot and I have talked about it. Elliot's got a plan for that. You're exactly right. If a regular resident, they're not up in all these details, if they see an increase in taxes, they automatically assume it's a cost to them. Which in this particular case, it's a real benefit to us as residents, because look at the list of things that Elliot just mentioned from tourism dollars.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, further, Chiten, thank you for saying that. I'm statutorily handcuffed. We can't be out there promoting this, placing advertisements locally to quote unquote sell this. However, we can give the Tourist Development Council, the Board of County Commissioners, our chambers of commerce, etc., the tools, our elected officials in other municipalities to educate the community the value in this. I told you all months ago when I brought this sixpenny, and I have mayors here, I have city council here, hearing Elliot that it's important for me to continue to earn the trust of our elected officials of our community. There are no plans to market the destination harder with this additional penny. Shame on me if I ever did that, but you won't have to worry about that because it won't happen. What we do need is continual funding for these partnerships to build out a community and continue to enhance multimodal transportation from the mainland to the island. Yes, we are already, staff is already working on an education platform that if the board does move this forward to the general election, we will be ready to disperse this to our leaders to educate the community the value of this tax.
Any other comments?
Yes, Elliot, you said that you're working on a platform to educate taxpayers. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, it's a reiteration of how the money's been spent on assets in the past, including like a water ferry. Number two, it's it's making sure that the Board of County Commissioners and I are aligned with our approach, because we may be able to put some uses, what we can use the money for in more detail if the residents do approve the tax. I don't want to get 1 inch out in front of them, but we have some ideas in mind that legally we can use this tourism tax to build out some more assets in Manatee County. Mm-hmm. And if the board approves what is in our mindset, then we will add that to the platform. So if I'm a resident, I say, oh my gosh, you mean if I can get this built that I can enjoy at no cost to general fund dollars, then that makes sense. But like Commissioner Turner said, hey, let's be candid. When we go to the polls, we pretty much know who we're going to vote for. And if it says the word tax, sometimes you may not read because you just want to get in and get out of there. You may just have a human reaction to say no. So we really got to slow that voter down to make sure there's the school board renewals on that, and there's another type of tax on that as well. So, but we'll be prepared for that, be very professional about it, and it's my job. If I do anything good, it's to communicate with our TDC, with our county commissioners. So we will have a plan ready for them after recess for their consideration, and if they move this to the ballot, we'll be ready to roll.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Chair, my comment is how we worded on, because this is the first time in the state of Florida this referendum would come to the vote ballot on a general election.
No.
Concern is how we educate on the ballot. That way, anybody is looking at it in a two-sentence
Yeah.
that they are not impacted by this tax.
And that's exactly what Elliot and I talked about. At this moment, I don't know what the rules are and how much we can put on there, and obviously it needs to be succinct. So we're going to find out, though.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else? All in favor of this? Aye. 10-0. Okay, up next, Elliot.
Yeah.
Holmes Beach grant request.
I think I can relax a little bit. Saji's been so patient and such a professional. We have brought this to the TDC twice. The initiative where the city of Holmes Beach has asked us for some matching dollars to enhance their infrastructure, bike lane, etc. Saji told me he'd be here to answer any questions. We did do some homework. What's his name? Mayor Chappie. I'm killing you all the time. Love you to death. His staff worked with us. We left the TDC in March saying, hey, you know what? Actually, it was January. Let's see if there's integration up and down the 7 Mile Island. So the Bradenton Beach, we had a meeting in the Holmes Beach boardroom for that connectivity. I know Mayor Murphy. They have their ideas on how they want the infrastructure in your city related to bike paths and trails, etc. We totally respect that. And I know that we have some MPO members on this table as well. Now, total transparency, I did talk to the mayor a few months ago. Their match dollars, because there was a deadline for some grants, she told me, and I agreed, that she used it for a different project. So Saji, I don't know what that does for a project like this, but I wanted to get it back. I assured her that we would get a recommendation out of the TDC today. We all agree that it's important that our road system is as safe as possible, whether there's walkers, bikers, etc. What pot of money do we use, and how do we partner with the municipalities out here for the greater good? So with that, any questions, Mr. Chair? I think Saji's here, unless you want to do any kind of opening monologue. I think Saji's here to answer any questions that you guys may have.
If I may, I got a couple sentences, but I'll keep it short.
Good.
Thank you, Chair and Council, for letting me come back to you again. I won't go through all the slides. The slides that are in your packet are the same ones you saw before. So I guess my kind of opening thoughts are, as I understood that maybe it was discussed at the MPO, or at least at staff level, that the MPO and the FDOT are pursuing a PD&E project for complete streets up and down Gulf Drive, and that could solve a lot of the issues we're talking about. And so if that's the desire of the council to ensure that the PD&E kind of keeps doing that part, and it's not something that tourist development dollars fund, understood, and appreciate the support of that. You'll see in the packet too, we did get an FDOT letter to support the project, which kind of makes sense from their perspective because they do want to improve safety. As you all know, there's been several fatalities along the roadway, and so that's really kind of our push for it. And with PD&E looking at the improvements of that and the MPO's Vision Zero push, I think that's totally important and totally fits. And so if that's kind of the direction of the council to kind of continue to back and support the PD&E, makes perfect sense to us. I guess my ask then would be, would you all consider a portion of, it's basically the third page in, it looks like this, it's got the yellow highlights in the middle of it. Let me see if I can do the page real quick, actually. Would you consider the portion that isn't covered by the PD&E? So on this screen, it's Marina Drive, little piece of yellow on the right side of the screen, and then 65th Street. Would you consider that the total of that is about $500,000, and I can bring more specifics if you like, but the rest of it then would be within the complete streets area the PD&E is looking at. So that's kind of where I thought I would leave the ask with that. It's not new. It's kind of going back to original piece that the PD&E is not going to cover, and if the PD&E doesn't get funding in the future, maybe we can talk about that more. As you all probably know, the PD&E doesn't carry construction money with it. It's just the design look at it ahead of time, and then it's the design, and then it's construction money. So at the point that they need construction money, maybe we can talk about it then. But at least near term, if we could take care of Marina and 65th, we'd love to do that. So thank you for your time.
Mayor?
Yes, sir. A couple of questions, and I've been one that said all along that I think that it's important to do the whole island if we're going to do anything. And I've said that here at this meeting. I've said it at the MPO. And I think it's important that sometimes the citizens look at and say, we do bike lanes to nowhere. And, so for safety issues and for connectivity and transportation issues, we do it. I do have a question. You've asked Senator Buchanan, or Senator, moving him up quicker, Representative Buchanan for $2.24 million for multi-use paths along Gulf Drive and Marina Drive. What is that money to be slated for?
The request was actually close to $2.9 million, and because the Complete Streets PD&E does not include construction money, the focus of that was if we can do multi-use paths in Complete Streets. So a longer story, not to get too deep in it, but Complete Streets can be road work, can be storm work, can be bike work, can be multiple pieces of that. And so the ask for the appropriations was to look at just a multi-use path along that segment along Gulf Drive. So again, we're doing multiple asks, trying multiple things to improve safety along that route, and not knowing the funding for PD&E, that's where that ask came through for just part of it. It won't be all of it.
All right, and I know we have the mayors from the other islands. Is your mayor coming, or is she not going to be here?
She couldn't make it today.
Okay. And is any representative from the council? Because I always like
We
to
have a
talk
commissioner here, and you have me.
Is he willing to come up and talk?
I'm sure.
Well, I just think that it's important to have the government officials that are elected by the people to be able to also ask questions when you get to that point, because, Sanjay does a great job and, staff, but it's still important to have your key elected officials here when you're asking for a lot of money and trying to find out why.
Our commissioner is her delegate.
Yeah. My thing was, I'd just like to hear what you think about this and the
Okay,
importance
Mayor,
of it.
appreciate that. My name is Dan Diggins. I'm one of the city commissioners in Holmes Beach. As Sajay said, there's money that's available for PD&E. There's money that's available for the actual design, and then we ask for money for the actual construction. So right now, we're trying to see if we can get money from you folks to do a study, right? To see if it can merge with everything else. Am I correct?
Well, the final ask is the last little piece on Marina. And
Okay,
65th.
but is that for construction? Is that for construction?
For
that's for construction. So we're just asking. We know pretty much what it's going to look like. We're asking for money to complete the construction because this is an area that is not very safe currently.
And it's a gap.
It is a gap, yeah. But we don't know the exact time frame for the PD&E from FDOT. We know they're going to start one at the end of this year, but we don't know what the next step is going to be.
Mayor,
So-
do you know anything more about the timing?
I don't know anything. I know we approved it at the MPO, but
Yeah.
to go forward, because again, I've said all along, I want the whole, if we're going to do it, let's do it right. I did talk to the mayor the other day, and she said, well, we don't want to wait. Well, I don't think it's a matter of saying all or nothing. I think if we can get a plan approved for all three and then maybe phase it with something as we do, and I mean, obviously other things are going to come up that we might run into, but you know, I just still cannot support this the way it is right now because I don't think we have enough information. And that's why I asked for you to, you know,
Okay.
an elected
I get
official,
that.
because again, we're the ones that are the faces of it and we have to be responsible for it. So I'm disappointed that either the mayor or the vice mayor isn't here today, you know.
I appreciate that, but what we're looking at here, and maybe it's probably kind of out of phase of what else is going on, because the other things are soon to be studied. What we're asking for is the money to construct it, but the other parts, they're still in the early study phase. So perhaps it's too early a request, or maybe we can just put it on the burner, because it's going to be a need at some point.
Well, and also, now we heard that you didn't lose the $1 million. You used it for something else.
Correct. Elliot recommended
Right,
that, yeah.
that we talked about, but that was a question I asked. Well, where was that in that whole project when we saw the first time at this facility, when you gave it, that it was $1 million, that all of a sudden, so it was discombobulated, and I still feel it is, so.
Go ahead, you answer.
I'll stand up here and answer questions all day long if you want, but there's lots of, of course, things that have been working, ever since. Specifically, I think you're talking about the ARPA money. That was money that we have to spend by ARPA federal rules, and we have to spend it sooner rather than later before it's gone. We got to spend it by December 1st, and our budget year is October 1. So we got to spend it by October 1. And that's the work that you've probably hit multiple bumps coming on, because we've taken the 70-plus-year-old infrastructure and have been replacing that so we don't have catastrophic failures along the way. So we used it for that. We had hoped to use some of that to contribute to the multi-use path, but since this was kind of up in the air, then we needed to move forward with that. We do have a estimate for that entire piece of Gulf Drive at about $3 million. That's the other page that's in it. So that's the whole ask if you want to do that. If you want to do phases and leave that up to PD&E, we can look at just this section of Marina and 65th.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, I'm okay with Sanjay being the point person because he's got all the details anyways. This $500,000 ask is really, if everything else comes to fruition as far as your asks, this is the leftover piece. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. If the PD&E does what it's supposed to do, including sidewalks and multi-use paths, that would cover Gulf Drive. And so this Marina Drive and 65th Street that you see on the upper left and the top are not included in the PD&E. And so these would be gaps that we currently have now. To the mayor's point, the green lines on there show multi-use path along Marina. The yellow piece in the middle is not completed yet. So it's filling in the gaps that the mayor had mentioned as well.
Mayor Brown, I'd like you to ask Sanjay whatever questions you've got, if there's anything that you can get more comfort on here.
I've asked and I just don't feel that we're at the place that I can support it yet. So I don't know what else to ask.
Is there a piece of information that you'd need? Or you don't know how to, you just can't get comfy?
Yeah, I'm fine. I've got what I came to, and well, let me ask this then. So the 2.24 from Mr. Buchanan's office, is that going towards some of this? You're hoping?
So the thought on that was multi-use path. It is the same area on Gulf Drive, but because the PD&E does not fund construction, it doesn't even fund design, then we made an appropriations request so we can keep the thing going, because it's going to be a little while. If we get that ask, it's going to be a little while before we see those funds. And so the thought was that we can continue on the multi-use path, the improving our infrastructure for vulnerable users. We wanted to make sure we got that in there. A lot of times PD&E doesn't tell you the whole story. It only tells you pieces of it. And so if we've got funding that we can add to it, then we can say, hey, FDOT, if you'll help us continue this project forward, we'll fund a multi-use path. And then if there's ever funding for the rest of the roadway, whatever the PD&E may say, we can do that at a later point, or we can mix this together. It just gives us more options. And so that's the ask. At this point, we're super hopeful we get it, but we don't know that yet either. So we're putting asks out, as many as we can, to help improve safety throughout the city.
No, and that's one thing that I am all for, the safety part of it, the issues. We know the issues under construction when you had a death because somebody was turning and it was a construction area. So, I mean, it was a very unique situation and a very sad situation.
Yes, sir.
But like I said, I just feel that, and I've said this numerous times at all the meetings I'm at, sometimes these PD&E studies take forever.
Yes, sir.
And it's hard, where sometimes just let us do it and we save all that money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I just still can't. I just wish we were doing the whole island as one big project, and that's kind of where I'm at. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. Any other comments?
Mr. Chair, is this something that highlighted area, something that the MPO would consider funding, or no?
I would have to bring it to them and see
Yeah.
what they say. So.
They've been pretty supportive of, the trail and everything else, so we can certainly bring it, or Mayor Brown can bring it.
With all due respect, I think we need to get a recommendation. And then we take this recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners for consideration, whether it's a positive recommendation or not. It's part of me being a steward of the process of getting a recommendation from this advisory board, so the board can make a decision.
Would you like to frame that recommendation for us?
Yep. Saji, I'm going to go to you. Does that make sense to you?
Sure, I'd love a recommendation, and if we think the PD&E is going to take care of most of Gulf Drive, if we focused on this piece of Marina and 65th, yeah, we'd appreciate that, and whatever that form may take, whether it's be to approach the MPO or whether if it's TDC funds. This is a missing gap.
So I think we're asking for a recommendation to recommend the $500,000 for the subject slide, or notifying the board, like Mayor Brown articulated, that if you don't want to make a recommendation, that give the reason why you just don't have enough of information. You want that 7 Mile Island connectivity. I will go on a whim and say this. This TDC and this Board of County Commissioners have put a lot of equity into enhancing multimodal transportation through the water ferry. Really need a point person to work with the city of Holmes Beach. For this water ferry to be really efficient, we need to go into Holmes Beach somewhere, somehow. We all want cars off of Gulf Drive. So I'd like to add that, recommend adding that to the mix as well. I don't know where we can go in, but I'm looking at someone who's smart enough to figure out where it could go in, and Manatee County is putting all the equity in that. We're looking for a partnership. It's not the mindset of this TDC. This is the mindset of Elliott. So don't think that this is that we're horse trading right now. That is far from the truth. Okay, but it's important that we're going to work together and hold hands and enhance multimodal transportation that includes the safety of the people that are walking Gulf Drive, if that makes sense.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
So you asked me what might help me get there a little easier?
Yes.
And that may be one of the things right there, what Elliot just talked about, is right now we have water taxi landings in Anna Maria Island and Braden Beach. So if you want to get off and go to Holmes Beach, you have to figure out a way to do that, and which is in between the two. So and again, you asked me why I wish the mayor or the vice mayor was here, but we have Mr. Diggins, which I'm glad we have somebody to, and him and I have talked before and gone over things, and the water taxi is a very important landing site in Holmes Beach to find a place, to work outside the box and find it. So that's why the connectivity from all three islands was important, because if I want to get off at Anna Maria Island and transport down to Holmes Beach, then I have a way to do it a little easier, safer. But if there's a landing site, then a lot of things change, and I know he's one of 5 votes, but I would hope that they would then say, yes, we are 100% bought into trying to make it happen. I know you can't talk for your board, but you can talk for yourself.
I can talk for myself. And yes, we have talked about this. The only current place that's available for a landing would be, it's private property, it's the water line. I'm not sure the existing boat right now, because it's not that maneuverable, could actually physically be in there, because it's a very, very tight area. But it certainly wouldn't hurt to go ask and measure and try to do things. I don't know any other place that we could do it. Elliot and I talked about Grassy Point. Grassy Point.
It's just that.
It's it's grassy, so
Yeah.
it has limitations. We could probably do the Kingfish boat ramp, things like that. But personally, I see every reason that we should have a landing in Holmes Beach. I just think it's absurd we don't. And
It's
that's just
natural.
that's my personal opinion.
It's a natural fit.
Exactly.
If we can go from downtown Bradenton to Anna Maria Island, to Holmes Beach, to Bradenton Beach, to Coquina, to St. Armand Circle, to the city of Sarasota, if we could eventually make that happen,
I agree.
you know, that is huge for all of us. And it really, and it's not about, you know, only doing it. It's about what it can make for what we show for the rest of the communities in this state and country, that look at what we did in a waterway that we already have. And also then the taking people off the roads. But it's always been about connectivity to me. And, you know, again, you and I talked about that in my office. That's what it's about. It's not about not doing this. So, because again, collaboration is the most important thing that I think we've seen in the last 4 years, that we didn't see it before, and I don't know why.
Mr. Chair, I'll be happy to come out and talk to the city council.
Okay.
Don't want to get in the mud, but what I've always been told is Waterline, that is the perfect location, is that dock is owned by the city and leased to Waterline. So I think there's an opportunity there. There's depth there. Mayor Murphy, we hate it, but there's certain days when you can't go into the city pier because of the currents. So that means we're going from downtown Bradenton to historic Bridge Street, and it's about a 50-minute commute. So to be able to add a water line would be great. But I'd be happy to come out, give a robust water ferry update, and let's just work through it and find the balance. Time is of the essence. We have good momentum right now. And let me preface one more time. I didn't bring this up as part of horse trading, but I think it packages, because this TDC is a good steward of recommending initiatives to manage the proceeds really, really well. And I believe in my heart that's part of it. And you're standing here, your acknowledgement makes me feel great. So thank you.
I don't take it as horse trading. I just think it makes sense. It's common sense. We live on an island. Why should we not have a ferry landing there? So
yes.
Mr. Chair, just sorry, one more thing. And one of the things that we've talked about also is with this new boat, if everything works out, we know it's about 12 months out, but the workers, if that can be worked out where you can get this faster boat and all of a sudden it's a 20, 25-minute ride, especially during the busiest times, and as we've talked about, it would be worked with the businesses out here to say, what would be a good time to bring 100 employees out and drop them at the 3 drops and make it where it's worth it. Because if that's 100 cars off the road in your parking lot of a business, how huge would that be? Plus, then when they want to go home, they don't have to sit in the traffic. So we have to change the mindset of this is a good trip. And if you got the right boat and then a second boat with the grant, there's opportunity to make that work. And that's what I think some of our restaurateurs and other businesses would love to see us working towards.
I agree, but
Has anyone considered Kingfish boat ramp at all?
You mentioned that.
yeah, we have considered it. I think at some point we have to acknowledge that neither Waterline nor the King boat ramp would work. So we have to say at some point, we might have to build a pier,
Right.
because that's the optimum, build a pier.
Yeah.
So, and I think if we really are honest with ourselves, that's probably going to be the ultimate solution. Now, I don't know where that pier would
Would
be.
could that be accomplished at Waterline? Is there a pier there now that we could
Yes.
improve?
Yes.
Yeah, it's,
Yes. I mean, water line's perfect. And it wouldn't take much to get
Yeah.
that done. We are, I don't know Mr. Childs wants to make a comment, but we are working with our grants writers of the county. We are submitting an application for a second enclosed water ferry. And the application also includes piers, docks, monies for that. So we're trying to stretch our dollar, be good stewards. So the county commissioner have done an awesome job of we got more grants writers than my whole career at Manatee County, and it's working. So we're submitting that application June 17th.
Elliot, the improvements necessary for Waterline? What does that cost?
I don't know because we've never come to Holmes Beach, the council, to ask the question to get that done. Me being a city guy, don't know, but it's probably minimal compared to the enhancements we've done with historic Bridge Street. Mayor Murphy's wasn't too difficult. Mayor Murphy's actually working with us to find a similar location near the city pier to mitigate suspended days. So everyone's working together, but it's not going. The dock is already there. I would say minimal dollars.
Okay, great.
Mr. Childs, I think, had a comment.
Yeah, I just don't think Kingfish is an alternative unless you're going to have some kind of a shuttle. It's just too far away.
Yep. Agree.
Waterline is perfect. Catchers is perfect. Those are on either side there. You've got the whole business district there. You've got the trolley running by there. So I think that's the spot that you want to be at. You've got another restaurant that's getting ready to go in there. Very popular business district right there. So that's the ideal place. And I certainly think there is a deal to be made there.
Yeah, I agree. You can get off the ferry, Waterline, and just walk to a restaurant.
Yeah, finally,
Kingfish that would be difficult.
Mr. Chair, the water ferry is a publicly operated system, therefore it must go into a publicly owned pier or dock. Okay.
Waterline it is. All right.
thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Personally, I'm a huge fan of Holmes Beach. I've lived here 21 years. That's where we used to take the kids and everything. So, I'll definitely be pushing for things that would make sense. So how do we frame this again? Would that be if we need improvements for the pier, which sounds minimal, the other ask seems like it falls in place, right? Yes, sir. David.
We've been kicking this can down the road for a long time now. I think it's probably time to make a motion and move it onto your desk, the
Right.
county commission. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with this ask for $500,000. And if it passes here, it goes to you guys. And let's not keep kicking the can down the road.
All right. Is there a second?
Kick the can down the road.
William?
I'm requesting a recommendation from this TDC so we can bring this to the Board of County Commissioners for their consideration. I have to stick to the process. We as a tourist development council, but you can make the motion however you want. If you want to just make a motion based on that slide right there and the $500,000 ask, do you want it to be more robust than that and talk about that the TDC is looking for collaboration with Holmes Beach to service the water ferry in their city? You can do a couple different things on that.
Yeah, I would like to push it forward with that assumption too. Let's look at the pier as well. I think it's a nicer package, but I'd be okay with this going to the board and let the board decide. Yeah.
So we need someone other than the chair to make a motion, whatever it might be.
I go back to what we were saying. Yes, let's move it with stipulations. That's fine. I agree with all that. And I kind of thought that's what we were doing when I said this. We're going to move it from us saying, yes, this is going to go ahead. I realize there's other negotiations going on. you know, if they have a spot, they have a public pier, obviously all these things have to come to play. So with however you want to put that into my motion, I agree with that, and I would make that motion.
I think it's stated pretty clearly. So anyone second it?
I'll second it for discussion, because if, you know, you asked me that question, how can I get there? I can get there a lot easier if we're going to have a true, and maybe even some stipulations in it, if there is no negotiations for a Holmes Beach landing, that it falls off. You know, and not to hold them hostage, but to hold them that we truly will get outside the politics, because this water taxi is not a politics thing. It's a transportation issue that can help also your multimodal transportation. So if somehow we can phrase that motion to say that we are going to have some sort of good faith negotiations to get the water taxi at one of those landings.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mayor, and you can assign me, your tourism director, to work with the city of Holmes Beach. I'd be happy to work with the mayor and do a robust presentation. And, or if you have a workshop, that may even be better, if you have a city workshop.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll frame it that way. Good faith, Elliot would be involved in that negotiation. It's a benefit to Holmes Beach having that ferry go there, right? Because we need traffic relief on the island. And also, we're going to be dropping them off right out front of restaurants. So it's a double-edged sword. So motion is that we'll make that stipulation. We'll negotiate in good faith on the pier, decide what little cost there is to bring it up to snuff, and it hopefully works out. We have David,
Yeah,
you start
so-
the motion. We got a second from the mayor. Anybody?
Mr. Chair, before they all say, I just help, if you get enough of votes, it's recommended. If you don't get enough of votes, then it's not recommended, just so all the TDC members know. Okay? So I have a mindset going to the Board of County Commissioners. I don't want to miss that step.
So we need 6 out of 10. All in favor? With the stipulation?
Aye.
Any not?
Okay.
I just had a comment on this. I mean, how long is the process? Can we get that approval with Holmes Beach and then kind of rediscuss this? Also on the funding mechanism, if the funding does come available from more than one source, what's the implication of that?
Well, the implication is there's still a gap of 500,000 is their ask. So even if everything comes through, they still have this gap of 500,000. So we'll take a couple of paths. Mayor Brown is the chair of MPO, so we could present this fix there also. So we'll look at it different directions, but what we're trying to do today is just at least forward it on to the county board and for further discussion.
Definitely. I'll say aye to that as well. I'll agree.
Okay, unanimous 10.
So, Mr. Chair, we got a unanimous. Am I accurate with that?
Yes, you are.
Okay. For the record, thank you.
Unanimous.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate your feedback.
All right. State of tourism update. Ann?
We always call this agenda item the fun part of the meeting.
That's because we're listening to Ann and not Elliot, though.
Thank you for that love.
Listen, you leave the door open for me.
Good morning. I'm Ann Watine with Research Data Services. I'm going to give you some numbers about April and then also talk about what we heard over Memorial Day weekend for the water taxi. So for April, there we go, we saw some rollback in visitation room nights and economic impact over last year. And I sound a little Pollyanna when I'm saying this, but I want to peel back the onion a little bit. So partly this is because last year Easter was April 9th. This year it was March 31st, that does impact April business. You know, having that earlier Easter compresses business into March, and we saw a very strong March. Secondly, we saw in April longer length of stay because, as you'll see in a minute, we had more European visitors, quite a lot more European visitors. Longer length of stay means if we held everything else constant, if we had the same occupancy, the same party size, the same number of rooms to rent, we would have fewer visitors with a longer length of stay because those rooms turn over less frequently. So partly that's longer length of stay, which is actually a good thing. We also had larger party size, which is why you see slightly more contraction in room nights than you do in the number of visitors. But I say this every time I come before you, if you look at these numbers compared to 2019, we've got a 43% increase in visitors, a 37% increase in room nights, and a 66% increase in economic impact over where we were in 2019. So a little bit of this is Easter, and a little bit of this is normalization back to trend line from the bubbles that we had had. So in terms of occupancy and room rates, we have occupancy down by 3.4% over last year, but up by 1.3% over 2019. That sounds weird when we said visitors were up by so much, but occupancy is only up by 1.3%. It's because the units available to be sold is so much bigger. The pie is so much bigger now than it was in 2019. It is not truly as big as the 11,000 that we are getting from the Florida Department of Business and Professional Regulation. That includes some units like the Marriott that are already permitted but not, already licensed but not actually in operation yet. So this is a little bit of a crystal ball into the future of what things are going to look like. But it is a 22% increase over where we were in 2019. So a slight rollback in ADR, which we have not been seeing, but I told you 2 months ago that we were starting to hear rumbles about. And I hear a little bit of those rumbles continuing into summer, that some properties are making some minor rate concessions. But we're still 30% up over where we were in 2019. And RevPAR up 31%, and we talked about the transient lodging units. So I previewed the big takeaway number. We've got a 12.3% increase of European visitors. We're finally starting to see that number growing. We're still not quite back to where we were in 2019, but we are starting to see recovery there. Other than that, we did see mostly contractions in visitors. We held Florida, we held opportunity markets, but we still are seeing the growth that we had seen Northeast and Midwest because of all the added flights. That big growth, it's a small market, but the big growth in opportunity markets is also because of flight availability. So party size, length of stay, I mentioned this earlier, bigger party size, shorter length of stay, or longer length of stay, which are good things. So in terms of fiscal year to date, we have a slight decrease in number of visitors. This is normalizing toward the curve, so we're down 3.3%. Still growth in economic impact, or at least we're holding. And similar growth over 2019 to what we just talked about for April. So there we go. So for the first time in 19 months, we have a very slight decline in traffic into Sarasota-Bradenton International, down 1.8%. But we had 19 solid months of year-over-year growth prior to that, and we are up 142% over where we were for April 2019, and up 4.9%. That's on a calendar year basis, so January through April. And there we go. In terms of what we're hearing for what's coming over the next few months, we're hearing that May wound up being pretty strong. That summer is looking, for the most part, quite good. Although there are some concerns, as I said earlier, about rate. We had one property tell us, and it was interesting, and it's a sort of a legacy property that has the same, people coming year over year, that people were booking for next winter as they were leaving this winter. And they had, just before we talked to them, they had a pile of people who had made that booking and then gotten home and canceled it. So canceled it like a month, made the booking, canceled it a month later. And they said that they think it's probably some health issues, but probably mostly economy related. That people got home, looked at what they'd spent, looked at what was in their bank balance, and said, "Oh, maybe we shouldn't do this next year." The property said that they were very grateful that they're doing it this far ahead because it gives them time to rebook that room. But they said it's weird; it's not something that they see all the time. They also said that summer looks really good, but that August seems unusually slow after school starts. So that's going to be a time that we need to keep an eye on. And they said that early December is unusually busy, and that Christmas week is unusually slow. But, and this does make sense, they said that what they see for Christmas week is very cyclical. That one year people say, "Oh, let's go away for Christmas," and the next year they say, "Oh, let's stay home for Christmas." So, they had given us some really interesting insight into what's coming. So the properties would like you to keep the next nice weather coming and keep water quality high. So you guys can do that, I'm sure. The water ferry, what we did is, and we've done this for the last number of years, we did a survey over Memorial Day weekend, so high traffic period, at Bradenton Public Beach and at Coquina Beach, at those public access points. We also did a handful, not a lot, of surveys at the water ferry dock over Memorial Day weekend. Excluding the surveys we did at the dock, 59.4, Elliot mentioned this number earlier, 59.4% of respondents were aware of the water taxi. I thought that number was huge. I was very surprised. Breaking that out, that was 80% of residents, 77% of day trippers, and 36% of overnight visitors that we talked to at those public access points said that they were aware of the water ferry. So we asked them how they had learned about it, and the number one reason was word of mouth. The number two reason was social media, followed very quickly by seeing the boats, but we did hear significant numbers of people saying that they had seen it TV news, that they'd heard about it on the radio, that they had seen the digital advertising. We even had a handful saying that they'd seen the blurb in the water bill. So in terms of how they're learning about it. Of those people who were aware of it, 34% said that they'd actually used it, although not all of those people necessarily were using it on that particular day. Partly that's because we were out there on Memorial Day Monday and the boat wasn't operating on that day. So that can be impacting that number a little bit. And we had 70% saying, of the ones who had used it, we had 70% saying they were very satisfied and 78% saying that they'd use it again. And what we were hearing in terms of comments were things like, the things you'd expect, but things like, it's better than fighting traffic. I'm able to relax. It's a fun experience. But my favorite comment was, I can enjoy more time with my kids instead of having to just drive them. So We have more information that we need to dig into and that we'll absolutely share with you. But I wanted to make sure that I could bring some highlights. Like I said, we just finished this up. So this is sort of brand new, hot off the press. Are there any questions?
Mr. Chair, I always like to color commentate. Ann will be doing surveying for the 4th of July
Yes.
weekend holiday and the Labor Day.
Yes.
Very important that we get into the minds of the visitors. Just a couple tidbits. First, on the water ferry. To date, since January 12th, we've had about 42 days suspended because of wind chop. The pontoon catamarans just can't handle that. It was still the right first 2 vessels to buy, because if the mainland to the island didn't work, we were still planning on doing a hopper service up and down the island. So still a good investment. If the board decides to move forward with the enclosed 96 seats, okay, instead of 49 on the pontoon, heavier, a little bit faster, should mitigate 60% of those suspended days. Folks, we're talking about 11,000 passengers that we couldn't put on the boats in those 42 days. That's about 9,500 cars that were left on the roads. That's how important that is. Length of stay, really cool, 5.3. Guess what? The state average is 4.2. So there's nothing better than your overnight visitors staying here for a good week. I'll give you a little tidbit. When do you want to ask the visitor to go home? It's 7 days you want to knock on their door saying, thank you for visiting, time to go home, because Ann will tell you that their average daily spend starts to erode at day 7, if we really want to be selfish about it. Just a little tidbit there. Flat is good. Like Ann said, we're coming out of extreme pent-up demand, domestic. So flat is good. Your bureau staff, we're not trying to break records every year. I can promise you that. We want to bring in quality visitors that have the wherewithal, that can afford the assets that are in Manatee County, period. Simple as that. So flat is good. Airport traffic, finally. Slight decline, which means flat. Other West Coast airports decline a lot more than SRQ. The new terminal, Mark Stuckey took a vacation day today. I don't know why we approved that, but the terminal should be finished in December. Allegiant will move their planes over in January. We'll have a little party, and that'll free up 3 airside gates. So really, really good. At no debt service created. $110 million terminal paying cash is few and far between. Remember, SRQ is one of 2 airports in the United States that are debt-free. A huge advantage over other airports when you can incentivize because you're not paying debt service. That is my color commentating for research data, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You'd mentioned something that you were surveying people on a Monday for the water ferry on a holiday.
Well,
We were looking at it, but that we were closed, and that was one of the things that I wanted to bring up. I'll bring it up now instead of in my comments. Why, or can we look at holidays? Because people are actually walking down there looking to see if it was there, and even people where I live said, why is it not running on a holiday Monday?
Elliot's Italian bloodlines lost his mind that day. Blame it on me. I've learned not to assume. Hear me now. When we have a national holiday, whether it's a Monday or whatever day, we will be running that water ferry. We not only tripped, but we fell and broke our nose. Thank you.
And we're going to tweak our survey just a little bit because we learned some things as we were doing this. This is our first time doing this survey since the ferry's actually been operational. But the people who were not aware, A number of them, and we want to make sure we can document that number, wanted to hear more. They were very excited about it. I think that that's interesting. We also want to pin down who we're talking to, who we're encountering, who actually used it on that particular day, in addition to just people who have had experience using it. So when we come back with our July numbers, we'll have a little bit, we'll have fine-tuned it a little bit.
I'd like to say something. Flat is good in this environment right now, so you guys have done a great job. Elliot's team has done a great job. I think the only reason we're flat is probably because of your efforts in Europe, because that's a pretty big increase.
Yeah.
And so kudos to you guys. Great job. Because the economy is flattening out. There's things, we've got $1.3 trillion worth of credit card debt, slow pays on cars. So, these are other reasons we might see a shift. So seeing the numbers running pretty much flat right now is quite extraordinary. So thank you for what you do.
Thanks, Ann.
All right.
I just have one more comment if I have the privilege, sir.
No, forget it.
Chris Colhan, the shady guy in the neon green, who runs this center. You hear the kids having fun in the other room. It doesn't get any better than that. I just want to thank this Tourist Development Council, the Board of County Commissioners for sponsoring the concert series that takes place here. I think it's now, Chris, 4 years. We finished just 4 years. 5 years. If you haven't come, and Ed Childs and Eric Cairns have been sponsors every year, thank you. But I'll give you one example. A.J. Croce, the son of the late Jim Croce, performed here, and this place was packed, and it was like a Las Vegas concert. And not only does it provide entertainment for the residents, but there's no more fun way to create awareness to visitors saying, enjoy your day at those sugar white sand beaches, dinner, sunset dinner, and walk a few blocks to see a nationally acclaimed artist perform at the center. It doesn't get any better than that. Chris and I and Rich Englert are kind of finalizing the lineup for next year. We appreciate Mayor Murphy's support with all the permitting being in the city of Anna Maria. So, but like I said, and Mayor Braun, you've been out here a few times as well. I think he was body surfing one night in the front row. But thank you. It's a lot of fun. You got to come out here if you haven't. It's a first class time. Thank you.
Okay, board members, is there any new business? Nothing? Any old business?
Mr. Chair, I know you're going to look at
Oh,
me.
you're old business, all right.
Oh, yeah, I'm old business. No, it's kind of one of the things that you asked a question today is how do you get there
Right.
on a particular item? And I think it was important when you look at, and the reason I asked what representative from Holmes Beach, we all have great staff. I mean, we've got great staff and we rely on our staff to do a lot of stuff, but we're still the ones in the spotlight. And I think it's important because, this water taxi situation has been something we've worked on and is so successful, but we're missing that link. And how do we get that link? And it's very important to work towards that link. And, the multimodal transportation, all the things that we're working on is something important. We did it in a street in Bradenton, and we set the street up, and we got bashed by the residents because it's a bike lane to nowhere right now. But if we don't start somewhere, we'll never get anywhere. And so we had to tell them that. But for this neighborhood of about 2 blocks, and that makes me think of how do we make it totally. And sometimes we do the little projects and then we forget about the big project and it stops. So that was one of my reasons all along for how do we do it together. Plus, I'm going to say point blank, at first, that first presentation was very confusing. And that was important. But again, the elected officials are the ones that take the spears. And I thought it was important. And I appreciate you, Commissioner Diggins, for coming up there and talking about it. And how do you get there, Mr. Chairman? Is you get information and you work through it and you do the next steps. So thank you for bringing that up, because that's how I got there.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah, when we're trying to push something forward, I just want a more detailed response. If we've got resistance, how can we clear the resistance? Which I think we accomplished today. And obviously, the waterline pier is a pinnacle thing. So take that back to your folks, please. Anything else, guys? We are adjourned.
Thank you.